On the stormy night, Air India Flight 101 was in a desperate race against time. With critical systems failing and fuel running low after a 14-hour flight from New Delhi, the crew faced a daunting challenge: land safely at JFK amid heavy rain and poor visibility. As alarms sounded and tensions rose, every decision could mean the difference between life and death. Watch the full video to witness their incredible journey and the heart-pounding moments that unfolded. On September 11, 2023, Air India Flight 101 was in the sky, trying to land at JFK Airport in New York for the second time. The plane had many important systems fail and was running low on fuel after flying for 14 hours. Heavy rain made it hard for the pilots to see outside, and they needed to land urgently. There were 357 lives depending on their next actions. Let's find out. This is a story of Air India Flight 101. It was a hot autumn night at New Delhi's airport. 342 passengers were getting ready for the long flight to New York, a popular place for Indian students and tourists. This was a crucial route for Air India, passing through countries like Pakistan, Russia, and Canada. The aircraft was a Boeing 777-300ER, known for its long-range capabilities. It had two powerful engines and was first given to Air India in 2009. While this type of plane usually only needs two pilots, Air India Flight 101 had four: Captain Rustam Palia, Captain Vikas, Captain Sushant Singh, and Captain D.S. Badi. This was the first time they flew together. Before takeoff, the engineering staff informed the pilots that a system was not working. They decided it wasn't crucial and prepared for the flight. Concerned about possible bad weather in New York, the captain added an extra 800 kilograms of fuel, a wise choice. The flight took off from Delhi around 3 p.m. About 40 minutes into the flight, over Pakistan, the pilots received a warning about a malfunctioning radio altimeter. This instrument measures how high the plane is above the ground. The Boeing 777 has 3 altimeters for safety, but now only one was working. This became a serious issue because altimeters are critical for landing. Another problem arose after the plane crossed the Atlantic Ocean. 10 hours into the flight, the pilots were informed that the TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, was not functioning. This system helps prevent collisions by using radar to detect other planes. Though it wasn't a major issue during cruise, it became worrying as they prepared to land. As the pilots continued toward New York, they faced more difficulties. The weather in New York was bad, with heavy rain and low visibility. They contacted air traffic control. I get it there, but you know what? I had a photo. Hey, you want someone to tell me, sir? Good morning. You're following an Embraer short final 104084, RBR 3000 from 48 line. All right, there we go. Hoping to land on runway 4R, but the instrument landing system, which guides planes for a safe landing, also failed to work. This meant they had to rely on less accurate methods to approach the runway. When preparing to land, another warning indicated the landing gear wasn't fully down. The pilots quickly checked and found it was down, but the alarm added to their stress. They decided to go around and try landing again. And try again. Got it? What we got off that bit for right. And you want to heavy Roger 5 runway heading final 2000. Understanding the cloud ceiling was important. It tells pilots how high they need to be to see the runway. Ideally, they needed a cloud ceiling of 600 feet to land safely, but JFK had only 200 feet. As fuel was running low, the pilots decided to head for Newark, a nearby airport, as they needed to conserve fuel for multiple landing attempts. Finally, the air traffic controller provided an update. The cloud ceiling at Newark had improved slightly. The pilots had to land with limited visibility and equipment. Okay, you have to feed have approach in the Newark then the only option that we have, because you know, the high level is that predictable that every time the don't delay if you've gone. Okay, so you have higher rights as a service, not for the fact that you have high rights. That's it. And then you said that was the way your evidence around not broke by the years might. It's that faith. We are not faithful, they yours, we don't know. By now, they had about 7,200 kilograms of fuel left. just enough for a landing attempt. As they descended, the pilots struggled to see the runway through the clouds. At 1,000 feet, Captain Polyan noticed they were too high and adjusted the plane's descent. The controller warned them about their altitude. And finally, at around 400 feet, they broke through the clouds. They realized they were still too high and needed to correct their position. Captain Palya worked hard to align the plane with the runway. And after much effort, managed to land safely on Newark's runway 4. Emergency services were ready, but the pilots didn't need any help. 10 minutes after they landed, a storm hit the airport. If they had delayed their approach or attempted another go-around, they might not have made it safely. The causes of the instrument failures remain unclear. Some believe it was a problem with the main computer on the plane. Despite never having flown together before, the 4 pilots communicated well and worked with air traffic control to land safely. The next day, the plane was flown back to India.
Story of heroism. On 9/11, 4 Air India pilots on board a flagship flight from Delhi to New York faced one of the most dangerous situations imaginable. They were low on fuel with multiple systems failing in their Boeing 777 aircraft, yet they managed to land safely with 370 passengers on board. In this exclusive interview to Vishnu Shom, the senior commanders on the flight finally break their silence and explain just how bad the situation was when they somehow managed to land.
I'm at the Air India operational headquarters in front of an Air India simulator to meet for the first time the 2 pilots of AI-101, the flagship flight of the airline between New Delhi and New York, which encountered a serious incident as it approached John F. Kennedy International Airport. We're going to be talking to the 2 pilots as we enter the simulator to get an idea of some of the problems which they faced on the 11th of September, just a couple of days back. After you landed and you shut down, there was a massive downpour. Now, if that downpour had happened about 15 minutes back, it would have made your already difficult landing even more difficult.
Yeah, I think if that had happened when we broke out of the clouds, it would have been virtually impossible to land because it was such a heavy downpour. If we break out of the clouds at 400 feet, we are going to see nothing. And we'd have to execute another missed approach. We'd be using up a lot of fuel. And then the scenario would get even more critical because then if you're landing on a wet runway, you've got, limited braking and further complications.
And the story might have been different.
First you aviate, then you navigate, and then you communicate. So that priority has to be, really there, because if you're going to miss out and you're going to start bothering about ATC and communications and stuff like that and forget about aviating, your aircraft is going to be all over the place.